What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one will break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of tickers out there. I'm going to break down what the news is saying about Elon Musk and Tesla, what data is dropping for tomorrow that's going to be very big for the whole market and Tesla, and also what the data is suggesting for Tesla specifically. But before I do anything like this, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward. The offer ends in just 3 days. And last but not least, guys, I have a new YouTube channel that I just started. So on my current channel, I tend to talk about Tesla stock and the technical aspect of it and give you guys many updates every single day. But the problem is, because I talk so much about technical analysis, I don't really get enough time to talk for like a whole 10 minutes about just Tesla news. And this channel has updated and kind of evolved to me talking more about like Nvidia and SPY and all these different tickers. And that's because most viewers want me to do that. But other viewers want me to talk more about just the news. They're not as interested in technical analysis. So on this channel I currently have right now, I do talk about like Tesla news every so often. I do talk about things like very briefly, some of the biggest headlines, but I don't get into too many details about other headlines that came out about Tesla, some of which can also be somewhat important. So that's why I started this channel. In this new channel, I just want to talk about the news involving Elon Musk and Tesla every single day. You guys could check it out. It's known as Stock News with Ray J. I have the link down below if you are interested. And I just want to talk less about technicals. I'm not going to even talk about technicals on this channel. It's just going to be about what the headlines say about Tesla that are very important. I want to just talk more about Tesla's products and more details about them. Now, in the future, as years pass by, I'm going to eventually merge these channels. But for now, I want to keep them separate because I currently talk a lot about the Fed and other things like technical analysis. And I just want to keep this separate for the people who are just interested in just Tesla news. All right. So if you're interested, please check that out. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. How are things looking? So Tesla basically had this rising wedge from the morning. You could see Tesla was continuing to uptrend as time went on. Then we called out this level, this 244.5 area. I told you if we broke this and Tesla started pushing very nicely, this thing could have gone to 245, then potentially 247.5. And then we could have seen a mini short squeeze to about 250 or so if Tesla kept breaking out. But then what happened was, I also told you that if we rejected off this area, we had this rising wedge. And if we broke down, Tesla would come all the way down to possibly like 238 or even lower than that. If 238 failed us, and I told you like 235, this zone right here is where Tesla would test. Now, what actually happened was, yes, I was correct about that possibility, the rejection. And because we got the rejection, the bearish case played out where Tesla ended up sinking down to 238 and below that. Now, I was talking about 235. We actually hit 235.4, so it came almost to the demand zone right here, super, super close to the level I was talking about. And then after that, it just went back and forth, got very, very tight in this wedge. So now Tesla's waiting to make a much bigger move. The thing about the market is that even though Tesla, you could argue that it's kind of like flagging here and it's due for more downside. You could argue that technically, but I just want to mention that I'm not going to pick a side on Tesla. We're going to see which way it breaks in this wedge just to be safe, because a lot of the technicals and a lot of the aspects of the market are very contradictory. Many people are saying that the market's going to tank and this and that. It could happen in the future in September again, but before it happens, there's a possibility the market may push because Apple is looking more bullish. It could also help SPY in these other tickers. So I will break them down in just a few minutes. Let's first talk about the market just very, very quickly. So as a reminder for earnings, we have NIO's earnings tomorrow morning before the market opens. Also Best Buy, Big Lots, and a couple of other retail stocks. We have HP later on after the market closes for Tuesday. Besides that, for Wednesday, we have like Chewy.com. We have a couple of others. And then after that, we have for Thursday, we have Dell, which is going to be the big one for Thursday. But besides that, nothing else is like that insane, that massive. Now, outside of earnings, for tomorrow, we have some big data dropping. We have the JOLTS job openings coming out. These are important because they're going to impact the Fed's policies. The Fed is saying that if the jobs market is too strong, the Fed is incentivized to raise rates even more because the Fed has been incentivized to do so due to the high inflation. They are using the jobs numbers as a reason for them to be more hawkish. So this is going to be very important for the markets. So the job openings data comes out at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, or 30 minutes after the market opens. So be ready for that. And then after that, at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time or New York time, we have the Dallas services data coming out from the Fed. That's going to be important as well for the services sector. I don't think it's going to be that crazy to cause major volatility, but it may cause some volatility. the bigger thing is going to be the job openings, the jolts coming out at 10 a.m. So for the first 30 minutes and the first hour of market open, expect some high volatility. The bigger volatility is going to be during the first 30 minutes thanks to the jobs numbers. So be ready for that. Anyways, when it comes to the news coming out, Elon Musk has reassured Tesla owners for the hardware 3 that once again, there are going to be very, very good updates coming for the FSD. And I wouldn't necessarily say he bummed out the other owners of the new hardware, but I don't consider this like bad in any way, shape, or form. Basically, when you look at the new hardware, they have like a different form of sensors and like new cameras out there around there with the radar and things like that, which is very, very awesome. But for the others out there, the other owners that are committed to the hardware 3, things are a little bit different. Elon Musk has tried to squash any fears out there. The fear that Tesla won't keep its promise to deliver the FSD technology to those who will need the new hardware, right? There's been some talk about that. But Musk is basically telling us that, hey, don't worry, Tesla's still committed to delivering self driving on the hardware 3 using software updates. Now, so is that entirely true? I mean, you could argue that sure, it's not going to be exactly the same as the newer upgraded features, but it still could work. It could be very sufficient. So we'll have to wait and see. Some are also saying that the hardware 4 software will lag the hardware 3 by at least another 6 months, which is what's making people very concerned. That's not necessarily keeping up because they're prioritizing hardware 3 with the software updates relative to hardware 4. Musk is telling us not to worry. They're both going to be great and it's going to continue to work out. So we'll have to wait and see on that. For now, I will put my trust in Elon Musk for the time being. Now, I also want to add that there's a lot of talk about the Cybertruck. People are criticizing its design, the technology it's using, the materials. This is all over the media right now. And right now, they're talking about the wipers. I think the wipers look kind of nice for it. It's a very, very, very futuristic looking vehicle, if anything. So I think the wipers look fine, at least in my opinion. Others are arguing that they look very comical, they look ridiculous, and this and that. Honestly, it's not really a big deal. Honestly, the reason I say that is because what is this bringing for Tesla? The answer is lots of money, lots of revenue, lots of sales. It's going to be fine regardless of how the wipers look. Okay. So no matter what they try to say, hey, Tesla's coming out on top. They're making money and the investors are going to reap the benefits of this as time goes on as well. So I don't really mind what the wipers look like. The car is still great. It's still going to bring in revenue. Now, for this quarter, Tesla's warning, at least they were warning us during their earnings call that this may not be a strong quarter for them, and we're starting to see more signs of that. Looking at the current inventory levels, the Model S, the Model X, the Model Y, and the Model 3 are all seeing increases in inventory, especially the Model S over the last couple of days. This could be because of production, of course, but it's not just that because production didn't just suddenly increase to the highest levels we've ever seen. That's not necessarily what's going on. I think what's happening is demand is starting to slow down in this economy as interest rates are relatively high and consumers are just not buying cars at the same rates. That is playing a big role. There could be other macroeconomic factors as well affecting this and leading to these bigger backlogs. But if this is the case, I mean, Tesla has to basically be very patient. They're trying to grow in terms of the production over time, but they're going to be hit with some like roadblocks here and there. So it takes them some time to get past these hurdles. And when that happens, that's when you tend to see like these big increases, just like this moment right here. So with that happening right now, and simultaneously the macroeconomic factors for the short term, maybe even medium term, next few months, it may not be that good for us, right? We may see some weaker numbers for Tesla, unfortunately. It's a real possibility. It's a real risk. But this is setting us up for something much better for the longer term. And that's why I'm still optimistic. I'm still fine with this. As time goes on, when the Cybertruck is out, Tesla's going to boom. Tesla stock is going to go up like crazy, in my opinion. When the Cybertruck is out and going into 2024, I'm still very bullish. But just know there are going to be some roadblocks for the short term in terms of their like numbers. It's just normal. It's not Tesla's fault. It's the economy. It's the Fed. It is what it is due to so many different factors. So Tesla has an equal weight rating at the latest update from the different analysts. It's expected to perform equally with the market, and that's how it's doing so far. The price-price ratio is holding up quite decently, which is showing some decent signs of strength for Tesla. It's still decent. It's not really too strong overall, though. Tuesdays tend to be green about 51% of the time, so it's almost like a coin flip. And then Tesla tends to do very well during the third and also during the fifth hours of the trading day. So watch it very carefully if you're interested in like higher volatility time frames. there's not really too much shorting going on with Tesla. It's actually not bad right now. We only saw about 30 million Tesla shares shorted over the last few days. Nothing too crazy. There's not high shorting. There's nothing like attacking Tesla so far. Decent stuff so far, and we'll see if this changes moving forward. Volume was 107 million. That's a little bit above average, so good volume is still coming in. And then on top of this, we start to see Tesla's overall short volume just very flat, almost 50%. So nothing new has been going on so far. But now let's break down these charts. Let's talk about what these charts are suggesting for Tesla. So just to be clear, guys, we got this very, very nice break to the downside from this rising wedge. And now we're very, very tight. If you're bullish on Tesla, you want to see it get a very, very nice and clean break to the upside. We can always readjust this, by the way. A very, very clean break. And this could push Tesla in this nice accumulation pattern right here, which would push it to 240 plus. If it breaks that, 242 is going to come next, then potentially 244.5. And if that breaks, it's going to start pushing even higher. If this is not an accumulation, if this is more of a flag, Tesla could end up, kind of like trading sideways and sinking even lower. If the flag plays out, you're going to be watching Tesla come all the way down to about 235 or so. If that fails us, 235 to 234, if that fails, it's going to come all the way down, most likely to about this previous resistance becoming supported around like 232. Then we have 230. If that fails us, then 228 is a real possibility. So we're going to be watching to see which way it breaks for the time being. But one thing I want to mention is that even though the news is another factor, in terms of technicals, Tesla's not looking that bad. You can see this thing has been actually uptrending for the majority of the day. We got this big drop to start us off, but then Tesla started uptrending. And then you could also add that Apple and these other stocks out there are looking a little bit more bullish, and they could pump the markets a little bit. So if that ends up happening and they start pushing all these different tickers from SPY to the QQQ, the market could push more. Apple is looking a little stronger. It's respecting a rising wedge like pattern. So that tells me that maybe Apple will push a little bit more, but eventually there could be a rug pull in the future. For now, I'm not seeing a sign of a rug pull unless we break down. So far, it has not happened, and Apple is continuing to uptrend. What is good about Apple is when you look at, for instance, the daily chart right here, the daily chart on this thing is looking bullish. If you look at the daily chart, we've got a very nice wick. It's trying to push up, testing the 20 EMA. If it breaks that, it's going to be pushing above 181 very, very soon. It's holding 180. It closed above 180. It looks more bullish than bearish, and this could pump the markets, including Tesla. So just be prepared for that, just to be safe. Apple is looking like it's forming this cup and handle, and these imbalances are acting as magnets. So the odds do favor upside. Now, it could gap down tomorrow, right? It could gap down a little bit, maybe by the bottom of where this wedge is, and try pushing up. So watch 180 on Apple. If it breaks, you're going to be watching 181, then 181.5, 182, and beyond. If you're bearish, you want to see it break below 180. If that happens, it could come down to test the bottom of this wedge somewhere. And if that breaks, it's going to come down to 178 or lower, and that's going to sink the markets. But it looks like it's continuing to uptrend, and the odds favor more upside for Apple for the time being. That looks more probable as of right now. So for SPY, if you're bullish, you want to see it break and continue to hold above these higher levels, break above 443.25 to push to 444. If that breaks, 446 is on the table, then it could start pushing towards like 450. Now, if we break down, you want to see it break below 442, retest the low at 440. If it gets below 440, that's going to sink it a lot lower. So we have a bullish and a bearish case. What seems more probable? Well, with Apple potentially pushing up, there's a good chance it's going to just respect this wedge. We might see SPY kind of like gap down tomorrow, retest 442, then try to bounce, and we might be on our way to 444. Seems a little bit more probable with this imbalance at 445. So I am leaning a little bit more bullish, but I just want to be open-minded just to be safe. Now, part of why I'm saying that is because when you look at the market structure, we made this low here with Jerome Powell's speech. What happened since then? The market's been pumping ever since. It's been respecting an uptrend, right? We have this high, higher high, higher low, another higher high. We could be breaking for another higher high. I will change my opinion if we get a break below this wedge, but so far it has not happened. I think the odds favor this respecting the wedge, maybe uptrending a little bit longer, try to get to 445. That seems more probable, but just to be safe, we're going to be watching to see if that ends up being the case. Now, could this be like a giant cup and handle where we come up here, then we get the rejection, then we push up higher? Sure, but we want to be open-minded. Now on SPY, we also have this head and shoulders that is still possible to play out. It's looking a little bit less likely, but it is a possibility thanks to the rising wedge. So just be open-minded for that possibility in case we do break below this wedge. That would change my opinion. So far, there's no break, and so far this has not been proven to cause any downside just yet because the market hasn't broken down. So that's the reason why technicals look a little bit more bullish thanks to Apple. It may try to invalidate this head and shoulders. There's a possibility of that. And just to be safe, there's always the bearish case, but I'm not leaning in that direction as of right now. It will depend on Apple, but that's what the technicals are suggesting. Technicals are suggesting right now. For the QQQ, it's no different. There's a head and shoulders, obviously. Could it break down? It's a possibility, but so far it has not been showing us signs of that. It has been uptrending, making another high, another high, another high. There's not a break in market structure just yet. If it holds above 368, it may test that. It's going to start pushing for these imbalances. We're going to see 370, then potentially 372. It looks more bullish from a technical standpoint, but just to be safe, we want to watch to see if we can hold above 368. If we break below the wedge and we start breaking down, you're going to be watching 365. If that fails us, 362 could come and this could start sinking. So far, yes, there's a head and shoulders, but is it playing out so far? Is it panning out? As of right now, it has not panned out, and the technicals do look a little bit more bullish thanks to Apple as of right now. So watch the levels just to be safe and be open-minded for as long as possible. Finally, for Nvidia, before I talk about Tesla again and the rest of the other stocks out there very quickly, Nvidia is showing some good life right now because remember how Nvidia was respecting a downtrend, right? We made this, there was a low here, a little bounce, a new low, a new low, a new low, and then another new low. So it's been downtrending. That's what the structure was telling us. But look, recently we formed a bullish divergence. Nvidia is trying to base around this 450 area. We were talking about this over the weekend, and now it's trying to bounce a little bit. I told you guys we should be testing 470 today on Nvidia. I said this in the morning. That's where Nvidia went to, or at least it came very close to that. So now the question is, how is this going to move? Well, I want to see Nvidia come down, retest the 200 EMA, maybe retest like 463 or so, maybe even 460, and establish a higher low. If it could manage to do that, that's going to be a good sign for this thing to try to start pushing a little bit upwards. We need to establish a higher low. We need to see it break and hold above 470, and that's going to be our key for tomorrow for Nvidia to start uptrending, at least temporarily. Now, even if Nvidia does uptrend a little bit, okay, this is a little complicated, so just bear with me. There could also be like a left shoulder here, a head here, then maybe a right shoulder could be forming where it pushes up a little bit more, and then the rejection comes. But there are no guarantees until we finally get to at least 480. So just keep this on your radar just to be safe for the future. It's not there yet, but this is on the table. So watch this very carefully. We will see what Nvidia does. Watch for a higher low to be established before this thing continues to push. If it breaks 470, watch 475, then 480. It is looking a little bit more like it wants to turn, but we want to watch it hold above 470 first just for confirmation. So for Tesla, I went over the bullish and the bearish cases with you guys. What is more likely to happen? So the news is a big factor which could affect how Tesla moves and on the data for tomorrow. So that's going to be very important. However, from a technical standpoint, it is looking like Tesla is making an attempt to try to hold very, very nicely. This could be a nice accumulation phase right here, and there's a chance Tesla could try to break above 240 for tomorrow, then push for 242. It wasn't looking that bad. It didn't really like crash or anything like that. And if anything, you could argue that Tesla's making a higher low. If you look at the lows it was making like last week, right? This thing was on a it's technically on an uptrend, making higher lows. So technically, as long as it does not see like a big rejection, a big drop, the structure is looking a little bit more bullish. Technically, we made the new high today as well for Tesla. So I'm leaning a little bit more in the direction of Tesla getting to 242 plus. But just to be safe, we have to wait and see if Tesla could break in the upper direction of this wedge by tomorrow. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. We want to be calm, cool, and collected. And that's my analysis for Tesla. Anyways, for other stocks out there, I'm just going to be very quick with this part. I'm going to be watching NIO tomorrow because NIO has earnings tomorrow morning. It has a bullish divergence right over here. It was trying to break to the upside today. If it has very strong guidance, this thing could start pushing to higher levels and get closer to $12. But guidance is going to be key. We have to wait and see what William Lee Bin says about their earnings. Now, and also their future. For Apple, here's another thing that's very bullish. When you look at the daily chart, check out the MACD, guys. This thing is, trying to cross. The MACD is about to cross. When this happens, we tend to see Apple push quite a bit on the daily chart. You could see Apple bounced. It looks like it may try to test. If it holds a 180, it may try to test 182, where the 50 EMA is. If it does so, this thing could start pushing, right? Gap resistance is going to be around 185. If that breaks, there's a gap all the way up to 190. So far, it looks like that could be the case. And if that is the case, that's going to be good for the market. Tesla's also on the verge of getting a daily cross on the MACD. If Tesla gets that break, we're going to be watching resistance around the 50 EMA, very close to 242. That's going to be key on the daily chart for Tesla. Not to mention the 4-hour time frame has the 200 EMA acting as resistance simultaneously, so it's a confluence of resistance. So we're going to be watching this very carefully. Support holding it so far is very close to the 20 EMA, so now it's like at 236. In my opinion, I think Tesla may get another retest of this upper trend line, at least 242, if not 244, and we'll see if it could break or not. If it breaks this, it's going to push higher. If it fails to do so, the opposite could play out. Now we have a potential, like kind of weird looking inverse head and shoulder structure with a nice accumulation. It looks like Tesla may make an attempt to try to break upwards. There is a possibility of that, so I want to be open-minded just to be safe. All right. Looking at some other tickers very quickly, let's see what else is there. We have AMD. AMD is looking a little bit more bullish to me. We're about to get a bullish cross on the 4-hour. Also on the daily chart, I think we came down to like the 200 EMA on the daily, and then we tried to bounce off of that. So the daily is not looking the strongest, but the 4-hour is looking a little bit better. It looks like it's trying to get across here. If it does get the cross, we need to see it break above 104. If it breaks that 106, then 108 are all possibilities. Let's see if this thing can try to get to 104. That's going to be very key for tomorrow. It's looking a little bit more bullish, so that's a real possibility. For something else out there, let me just mention that the VIX is looking more bearish. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, the VIX has been coming down to where this unfilled gap is. It could end up doing that if we break below 14.5-ish, around there. I think it's 14.6. If we break below that, it's going to sink all the way down to the high 13s, and that's going to be because of the market pushing. The 4-hour time frame on the VIX looks bearish because the market is starting to push. That seems a little bit more probable that we're going to continue. For the dollar, we have a bearish cross right over here on the PPO. It's starting to curl. This chart looks more bearish. The dollar looks like it's going to retest the 20 EMA, maybe break below it. If it breaks down, you're going to be watching 103.65 to potentially be tested. If that's the case in the dollar, if the dollar cools off a bit, this could be because of the market pushing. Tesla, SPY, the QQQ, these things may push also thanks to Aapl. For Coinbase, you're going to be watching 72. Not looking that strong, but 72 is where it's trying to base. So we're going to see if it's going to base at 72 and then try to bounce with the market to get back above 75. If so, you're going to be watching this resistance around 77, potentially 79. But it's not looking that great so far. It's looking very flat. So we're going to be watching just range trade, not really the best of charts. Google also looks bullish. We're about to get a bullish cross on the 4-hour time frame on the PPO. If we break above 132, we could see this thing start pushing towards this resistance right here at 133.3. If it breaks that, the next level is going to be 134.5, then 135.3. Those are some important levels, so watch for the potential bullish cross on the PPO. The odds do favor upside, so watch it all very, very carefully. On Amazon stock, if it breaks down, you're going to be watching 130.5, then 132.5 as resistance. As support. That's going to be support. For resistance, watch 133 points. What is this? 133.64, then 134.5. It looks to me like it's going to try to test 134.5, but it's kind of tight right now. It's not super strong. If it breaks that, 136.5 is a real possibility. Now, I think 134.5 could be tested tomorrow, but it may be very, very tight. So I'm not expecting it to be that crazy. And finally, for Meta is trying to get a bullish cross on the PPO. If Meta manages to get that cross, I mean, we got the cross already, but if it manages to continue, that could be a good sign for it as well. So we want to see if this thing can break the 50 to get back to 295. If that breaks, it could start pushing towards 298 to 300. If it breaks down, watch 285 and 280 as supports, but I do think the odds favor a test of 295. Anyways, guys, that's what I have for this video. So watch your levels very carefully. Do what you have to do. I'm going to be very open-minded in a market like this because we did have head and shoulders on SPY and the QQQ, but I do want to note that technicals look a little bit better. Don't forget about my new news channel if you're interested in Tesla news. And with that said, I thank you all so much for listening. Thank you. Tesla to the moon because the long term is very bright, and peace out.